Blake, I guess I'll start here with you because the reports around OG, if you really look into those, are always that he wants more playmaking, playmaking. And is there enough opportunity in Toronto for him to showcase this playmaking? Um, so I guess my question to you is there that space? And also, do you even get that sense from OG that he's like dying to be the number one guy or whatever?
Yes, I get the sense that the quietest guy in the league, who is notoriously short answered as a bit, is
Mm,
also the leakiest guy telling reporters that he wants more role and things like that. And no, I don't mean to be too flippant about it because I think the truth is that every 25-year-old in the NBA who has a contract coming up on the horizon would love more of a role. And you don't get to this spot in the NBA if you don't believe in your skill set and believe in your ability to be even better and expand your role. Having said that, the playmaking specific part of it has always struck me as not in line with what we see from OG and certainly I mean, the leaks are not in line with what we know about OG the person. But even if you believe that, he was unhappy with a certain part of his role, the playmaking, the ball handling side of things doesn't really line up that much. Like, obviously, it's great when they give him a little bit of runway to do more of that. I'm sure he appreciates it. We've seen, early, if you think back 2 seasons ago to when Pascal missed the chunk of time, we saw OG get to handle a little bit more in pick and roll or isolate a little bit more. The truth is, and Will, you and I discussed this a bunch over the last 2 years when I would guest on the show, is that if you look at the history of OG Anunoby, and I think everyone knows that you would be hard pressed to find a bigger OG fan than me, when he's been given more offensive role,
mhm.
the efficiency in that role has pretty uniformly dropped off. He is a really, really great play finisher and roughly 20% usage guy where he can be one of those types that has, a borderline 60% true shooting mark on league average usage. That's a super valuable thing. When we've seen him handle a little bit more, have a little bit more playmaking responsibility, it hasn't always come around. I know that 2 seasons ago he averaged 2.5 assists a game. That's great. I think that's fully reasonable. I think that's something that he can do and something you can work into the offense. But this idea that OG should be or would want to be someone who is, touching the ball every single position and initiating actions from the top of the floor, that has never really aligned with me with what we've seen from OG or where his best skills are. So I think there's room for him to have more offensive responsibility, but I don't think we're kind of like I would be very surprised if new coach Darko Rajaković is like rewriting the OG part of the playbook.
Yeah, and I don't think anything we've seen so far in these two preseason games. By the way, I'm so happy that today's the last show we're doing with only two preseason games. We're
Yeah,
gonna have so much fresh material for you tomorrow.
they're playing an actual team
They're
tonight.
playing an actual team tomorrow, or today, sorry, and we have to, break it down tomorrow. But yeah, I think with OG, like his role doesn't look that noticeably different from me. I don't think from Darko's comments that it seems like he's going to see this huge jump. I don't think it's gonna be a big change. I think OG's really good, sort of what he's doing. Um, but I did, on media day we got to interview OG, and it was really fun to hear his British accent come out. But
Ah, I
yeah, what's
meant
up?
to ask him about the London Lions on Saturday. I ran out of time. I'm not exaggerating here.
Yeah.
Saturday it has to be the first instance in OG's career. We ran out of time and PR had to cut us off because they
Mm.
had a meeting to go to. I had
Wow.
meant
This
to
is like
ask
when Nick
him.
Nurse was like, "Oh, Kawhi lit up like a Christmas tree."
Yeah, when
And they
I
had the
talked about the Delaware or what
yeah,
was it, the Idaho Stampede.
yeah, one of those, yeah.
No, but I had meant to ask him about the London Lions. Sam Decker hooked me up with a London Lions hat. It's going to be like
Oh, word?
yeah,
Oh,
they've
nice.
got these cool corduroy hats. So that'll be Alex isn't listening to us anymore, but that'll be up there with some of Alex's good hats, I think.
Mm. Well, I mean, you should have to wear because again, not to blow up your spot, but obviously you and OG have an existing sort of like working relationship, even dating back to when you were more closely covering the team, and so I think the thing for me is just thinking about like with OG. When we had that interview, I asked him like, Mikal Bridges said in this interview on Paul George's podcast, he was like, Paul was asking him which other players do you think could transition from being this role player to being more of a feature player the way Mikal had? And Mikal himself identified OG as one of those players. Um, but I do think that there's going to have to be other skill jumps that change in his game,
Mhm.
right? Because for me, one of the things is I want to see OG Anunoby shoot a lot more threes. Not only because I think he's probably the best or second best 3-point shooter on their team currently, but also I think that that's where his game can grow and expand. But I was looking into it, just preparing for the show today, and I was thinking about how can OG get more threes? Because it's just easy to say we get him more shots, whatever. But how can you get to those more shots? And I think it's pretty clear that OG is a guy who is a catch and shoot 3-point shooter, not
Mhm.
an off the dribble 3-point shooter, right? And, in terms of guys who averaged 5 or more catch and shoot threes, OG was at 4.7. I'm using the 5 threshold because there's only 6 players who even got to 6 or more, and only 18 players who averaged 5 or more catch and shoot threes around the league last season.
So sorry, the guys who got 6 or more. So this is catch and shoot threes
Catch and shoot.
specifically. So
Specifically catch and
is it pretty much just like Klay Thompson and specialists?
So it's like Clay, Markkanen, Buddy Hield,
Okay.
Malik Beasley, Max Strus, and Tim Hardaway Jr. Those are the 6 players who
Okay.
took more than 6 catch and shoot threes.
Markkanen's really the only one that surprises me there, just given like the rest of those guys are spacing around elite offensive talent, or if you're Buddy Hield, like that is the skill you're bringing to the table.
Yeah. I think what's telling for me in that group of 6 is I would love for OG to join that group,
Mhm.
right? I wouldn't say that he's the best shooter in that group, but then again, I don't think he's substantially worse of a shooter than Malik Beasley or Max Strus.
Well, here's the thing too, is that if we're talking about those guys taking 6 and 7 catch and shoot attempts per game. If OG were taking more catch and shoot and erasing the pull-ups, his percentage would be a lot higher. He shot 41% on catch and shoots last year.
But the
On
thing
catch and
is,
shoot threes. It's just can you do that? Can
that's
you
what I'm
nudge
saying.
it higher?
It's hard to scale up in that volume unless you have that extra bit of skill, right?
Mhm.
Because when we're thinking about in terms of getting him more, threes up, he only took 0.8 pull-up threes per game last year.
Mhm.
Obviously, we know OG's not a guy who pulls up for 3 that often, doesn't run that many pick and rolls, for example. And I think that might be a bit of a limiting factor because you even look at some of these guys, like Clay, for example, he shoots 10.6 threes per game. So that means that he's, in addition to the 7.8 catch and shoots, he's also taking 3 pull-ups, right? You're looking at Buddy Hield, he takes 2.5 pull-ups per game from 3 and 6 catch and shoots. It's just it's that same trend onward and onward and onward. And I feel like for OG, if there's a bit of a skill jump in terms of his catch and shoot 3-point shooting, also in terms of like his pull-up 3-point shooting and also his movement off the ball too, because I think that's one thing that Strus does a great job of. He flies around those screens and he gets those threes off. Tim Hardaway's able to do that. Buddy Hield's able to do that. Malik Beasley's able to do that. Clay's able to do that. Markin is a bit different. He's more of a pick and pop big, but even he comes off of screens. I think OG can get better at coming off of screens to get more shots from 3, and also I think that there probably needs to be a bit more of a jump skill-wise from pull-up threes. Because right now he is close almost to his ceiling in terms of how many threes he can get up in his current role and his current skill set.
Right. And I just brought up the leaderboard that you have there. And yeah, among those guys who attempt 6 or more catch and shoot, Markkanen is the only one who takes fewer than 1 pull-up attempt a game. And like you said, it's because it's a lot of pick and pop stuff. So unless OG, and we don't anticipate OG playing even more of a big man role in the offense because they have Jakob Poeltl now, it would have come last year if they were going to, use him as a pick and pop guy a little bit more often. I guess the question comes down to 2 parts, and one is, how badly do they need OG in the corners even more often because they just don't have a lot of spacing in that starting unit, but also, how much can he improve as a wing catch and shoot guy versus a corner catch and shoot guy? Because those are a little different as well. I don't know if you have those numbers handy, but what do you think about that? Just OG's ability to knock down from the top of the floor instead of the corner.
I mean, the corner is definitely his best spot. He's one of the most efficient, high-volume corner 3-point shooters in the league already. But at the same time, you run into that scaling issue. There's only so many corner threes a team's going to allow you unless you're playing Nick Nurse's defense. Sorry, we're going to set a career high for Nick Nurse slander in this episode. No, but seriously, though, like, you need to be able to find other spots to be able to get to. You know what I mean? And so that's where I think for OG, like, expanding that 3-point game at the top of the floor is going to be very important. And I think for him, he's a very good 3-point shooter, at least from those areas. When you watch him warm up, when you're watching him in practices, he's always working on those shots. I talked to OG a little bit in the interview as well, but he does this drill where he shoots it extra high. Like, he'll shoot a super high arcing 3 that's like maybe twice the regular arc of his regular 3, and he does that just to extend his range and also to work on his touch, to practice his touch. He's got really good touch on those, and he actually makes a substantial amount of those, even just watching him go through those warm ups. So I think, the expansion in an OG's game on offense for me has to come in sort of the way he's able to get his threes off, where he's able to get those threes off, and also sort of the skill set that he needs for that. But I think,
and I asked this as sort of a leading question because I have last year's corner 3-point shooting leaders in front of me, and OG was actually tied for second in the league in corner 3-point attempts per game. So if we're talking about scaling up his 3-point usage, he's basically at the top of what any team asks any player. The only player who took more corner threes per game than him last year was Reggie Bullock, who is spacing out around Luka Doncic,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
makes a lot of sense, right? And OG, actually, prior to the trade, Mikal Bridges was higher,
Right.
spacing out
And
around
his role
KD
changed.
and Devin Booker, but that came down a little bit as he was tasked with taking more above the break and pull up. So yeah, when I think you're right, and I'm glad that was your answer, since it was a leading question anyway. But
like
yeah,
more agenda driven media.
if it's scaling
on the
up,
Raptors
it
show.
has to be. It probably has to be above the break, because guys just don't take more than 2.5 corner 3-point attempts a game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on the defensive end, I guess my question to you is just, can he repeat on the all defensive teams?
Yeah, I think so. I thought it was.
What does he need to do for that?
Yeah, I mean, really, I do think the change in scheme could help him here, where, first, similar to like we talked about with Pascal and All NBA, a filter that voters are going to use is who's on a good team and who's on a good defensive team, right? So if you are the best defender on a team that finishes 14th in defensive efficiency, it's hard to make a case that I'm the best defender in the world, because what you're basically saying is, this team would be so irredeemably bad on defense without me as their best defender if you're only dragging them to an average defensive level. So I think the Raptors being better on that end will help. I think that a slightly more conservative scheme is going to better highlight OG's one-on-one defending ability. And what I mean by that is, there were a lot of times over the years where I understand the scheme. It's a smart scheme in terms of making things difficult for guys, funneling people into where they have the least space, and your length really is maximized. However, there would be times where I'm looking at OG Anunoby, and I think, for my money, he is one of the best one-on-one defenders in all of basketball, and you're giving him so much help.
Right.
And you maybe don't need to do that. And I wonder if the people who vote on these things and who are evaluating defense, when they swoop in and watch a Raptor game, they're seeing OG get a lot of help. And it looks more like a team defensive system than OG's individual stuff. Like, yes, leading the league in steals, being near the top of the league in deflections, those things are important and those things will repeat. But I really do think, based on what we've heard and what we've seen so far in a really small sample, is that OG and everyone really, they're going to be trusted a little bit more to defend their man. And this is something you and I asked Darko about on Saturday at practice, is just, yeah, trust your defensive personnel, trust all that size that you have. It's not just useful for like wild closeouts and traps. It's also useful because it makes you difficult to score over one-on-one. Yeah. So I think that could help there. I think the thing OG's always going to have going in his favor too is, and I've pulled numbers on this before and, asked people on the data side to help me try to quantify this. He is regularly the most versatile defender in the NBA in terms of guarding 1 through 5. Now, that probably only happens when Jakob is off the floor this year. It's probably more of a 1 through 4 thing this year. But he is regularly not only guarding the best players, but only a small handful of guys can guard the best player, whether it's a 1, a 2, a 3, or 4.
Yeah. I mean, like when we play Philly, we'll see him guard James Harden, and then we'll see him guard Joel Embiid. Like, that was a pretty typical thing that would happen.
I mean, shoot, he might need to guard Tyrese Maxey too. We'll see how Dennis Schroeder holds up.
We got Dennis for that. We got Dennis for that now. We actually have somebody as quick as Tyrese, which I feel like is going to be hopefully pretty impactful in that matchup, because I definitely had a lot of concerns about Maxey playing against them. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I agree. I think hearing Darko talk about essentially he doesn't want to throw out the whole defensive scheme. He doesn't want to hold on to the fact that the Raptors should be a team that is very high in deflections. He actually wants to see even more deflections than last year. And I think for OG, that just really helps. I mean, OG was at 3.6 deflections per game last year. That was second in the league, just behind Fred at 3.8. And yeah, I mean, if you're telling me OG got even more deflections, there's so many opportunities for him to do what I would say is probably the signature OG play, which is the pick six.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very good at those. So, I mean, look, once you make the defensive teams, you do keep that reputation for a while.
Well,
but
we know that all defense voting, not universally, but we've heard people who vote on these things. We've heard people who talk about it a lot at the league level, not the team level. It's sometimes a year behind, right? Like, it takes you a little bit for that reputation to stick.
In this case, it's 5 years behind, but it's all good.
But also, like, look, and it's not. OG should have made an all-defensive team before this point. Like, I think it was 2019, 2020 where he didn't make it, and one of the arguments was he only played 69 games. But then you look...
I thought the argument was, but there's so many great defenders on that team. How could you just pick one?
Yeah, maybe it was that. And then there was but Matisse Thybulle made it and played way fewer minutes than OG.
It's so funny because when I interviewed OG actually brought up the fact that it's like, well, Philly had multiple guys like Matisse and Ben.
Boston always has a couple guys getting those votes. Yeah, look, he played 48 and 43 games the last 2 years, respectively.
Okay, fine.
That probably hurt his case, but I think on merit, he should have been there by now. And
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, there's an inertia to now you've been on those teams. The big factor, though, is going to be if the Raptors are a good defensive
Right.
team or not. Let me ask you this. Well, I know we're going to pivot to Jakob Poeltl in a sec. OG Anunoby can opt out at the end of the season and become
Yeah.
a free agent. The Raptors could work out an extension with him before then, but the rules around what you can give him in an extension are a little tough. He can get a 40% raise, which is a very significant raise, but it's also something that he might look at that number and say, hey, that's my, I can come back to that in free agency.
Mm.
I want to, bet on myself and see if the percentages go up and another all defense and things like that. Do you see any scenario where the Raptors and OG don't take this to free agency in the summer?
I mean, I could see something, I mean, like, I do feel like there are other ways to sort of promise a player besides the money. But are the Raptors actually in that position right now? I don't really think so. No, and I think OG is in a really strong free agency position. It's not a strong class.
It is
upcoming.
not.
And, if I see sort of like some of the contracts that are being put out there, if I'm OG, I know I'm better than some of these other players who are getting paid. So, it's a lot of money, but I mean, at the same time, I'd be pretty happy if the Raptors are somehow able to sweet talk him into actually signing that extension. We'd be very thrilled on the show, which will be more OG and Anunoby interviews, hopefully.